Can Atomic Mass Games now support all of the games that they have made themselves and the games that they inherited? Or are they stretching themselves a little bit too thin? Well, of course, the honest answer to that is I do not know. Everything in this video is pretty much going to be speculation. I don't actually know how many people are working at Atomic Mass Games, and I don't actually know how many people it would take to support a game of any of these magnitudes. How many people does it take to support Star Wars Legion? Shatterpoint? Armada? X-Wing? Marvel Crisis Protocol? Well, I don't know. And obviously there can be some crossover, right? Maybe you have a sculptor who works on one. Once they've finished that project, they work on something else. That seems reasonable. So to finally answer this question would be impossible, but we can speculate a little bit on it. Now, when Atomic Mass Games started their own studio and they released Marvel Crisis Protocol, obviously they had the right number of people there. That's what they thought they needed. They launched that game and it was quite successful, and they had releases quite consistently. They then inherited the Fantasy Flight games, and that's where I think maybe questions could be asked, and as us as consumers, we don't really know the answers. But they took on Legion, X-Wing and Armada. Now, Armada's perhaps not seen the most amount of releases since it went to AMG, but then again, would it have seen that many more if it was under FFG? Maybe, maybe not. But X-Wing and Legion have been reasonably well supported, as well as Marvel Crisis Protocol. But now they're adding a newbie into the mix. Star Wars Shatterpoint, let's face it, feels a lot more like Marvel Crisis Protocol, just in the way that it looks, and it's probably going to be a skirmish game that has similar-ish rules and be a similar-ish size, as in terms of scale as well as size on the board, I guess. They also said that we're going to get releases pretty much nearly every month. Does that mean something has to give somewhere else? A big question I'm sure a lot of you Legion players will be asking is, does this mean we're going to get Star Wars Legion releases at a less schedule? And I have to presume yes. Now, they could just hire more people and try and support the games at an equal footing. I doubt businesses are going to want to do that. So I suspect Star Wars Legion will take a bit of a back burner for the 2023 year, and Shatterpoint will take centre stage. That doesn't mean Legion will then not come back with a vengeance. Maybe they'll end up doing another edition or something like that, who knows. But my assumption is that Legion will take a back seat, Shatterpoint, you know, they're going to put it front and centre and be like, buy our new game and this probably very expensive core box because it's got a lot of stuff in it. But then what does it mean for X-Wing? What does it mean for Armada? What does it mean for Marvel Crisis Protocol? I don't know. Apparently they said in an interview that the in-house staff was about 15 people. And that sort of correlates to maybe what you see on a Star Wars Legion box. Sometimes they have like a credits and it tells you how many people worked on it. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that's the total number of staff who are working there, because some people are probably doing one project whilst another group do a different project. But it doesn't seem like there's that many people at AMG. Now we don't actually know how many people work at some of their competitors. Like Games Workshop, it feels like they have a lot more people because they are pumping out releases like not just once every month, they are pumping out several in a month, generally once every week and multiple every week. On different scales, obviously. Some releases are small, maybe just a character, and some are much bigger, but generally they have something every week. Can AMG achieve anything like that? Are they even trying to achieve anything like that? Or is it that they're going to concentrate on Shatterpoint and maybe Marvel Crisis Protocol won't get as many releases? These are definitely open questions, and I think there's legitimate reason to think and to question AMG and say, hey, are you actually going to support these games as well as you have been supporting these games? You now have 5 games under your belt, you only had 4. Well, you started off with 1, then you went to 4, now you're at 5. Have they recruited more people for this, or are they trying to do it with the same number of people? If they're trying to do it with the same number of people, then you reasonably can't expect much more in terms of production, right? That doesn't necessarily seem reasonable to me. These questions, though, I don't think they're going to come out and tell us. The proof will ultimately be in the pudding. If we don't see many Star Wars Legion releases next year, we'll know why. If the speed at which Marvel Crisis Protocol releases slow down, you might know why, or maybe they're just going to let that game sit quietly for a little bit while they concentrate on Shatterpoint. You know, it's hard to say. So whilst we don't know the answer to the question if AMG can support this many games, I actually think it's very much a real question to ask. It's a concern that I think a lot of people might have if you play one of these games and you're not interested in Shatterpoint. The more games that they have, the more stretched they might become. And it's fine for them to say, hey, we're not going to stop those other games. Well, we don't necessarily need the games to stop for it to be a problem. If you start giving us less releases of our chosen favourite games, then that will be a problem, right? Weirdly, we want to spend our money on the game that we want to spend it on. It's not really that relevant to me because my plan is to ditch Legion, concentrate on Shatterpoint. And Shatterpoint will be the new darling for a while, but at some point, they'll probably do another game. And then what? We're back in the same position. Do they stretch themselves too thin? Or do they have more people to like actually support both the games? Well, all of the games, not both of them. But for me, if you're an AMG player, as in you play one of the games that they currently make, there's a couple of reasons to be concerned, isn't there? Two main ones. One, the game that you play might be less focused on whilst they concentrate on Shatterpoint. Mainly that I'm talking about Star Wars Legion and Marvel Crisis Protocol. I think those are the two games that might take a bit of a backseat. And then the secondary worry that applies to all of them is if there's not more staff, or, well, they have more games now, are they all going to be a bit like weaker in terms of its production? That applies to X-Wing, Armada, Legion, and Marvel Crisis Protocol. Didn't realise that my hair's very something about Murray. I just got it cut and it's sticking up in a bit of a weird way. But yeah, we can't know the answer to that question. I think it's a legitimate concern, and I don't know if they've necessarily put out adverts or anything like that for more staff. Sometimes you see that kind of stuff leaked, like video games will be like, hey, we're making a new MMO or whatever, please come and work for us. I don't know if AMG have done that or if we would even hear about it if they did. We know they're hiring more staff when it comes to playtesters because they're doing that for Shatterpoint. We don't know if they've done anything necessarily in terms of sculptors, designers, and that kind of thing. Let me know what you are thinking right now. Do you think AMG can actually support these games as well as they have done in the past? Can they support 5 games as well as they supported 4? That's the key question, right? And if we think the answer to that is maybe yes, maybe not, do you then have concerns over the game that you play, even if it's not like Legion? Do you know what I mean? Even if it's not the direct adjacent game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What I hope you do is have a most beautiful, beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.